You know, you were talking about the 80s, and this may have even been sooner. I don't remember exactly when it all started. I think it was the 80s, but there was the huge time of, you know, and still going on, of the me generation. And, you know, the narcissistic personality type was just rampant and is growing, it seems like, because we're too busy these days to stop and look at the other guy. It's even in our society, when you're at the grocery or driving down the street or shopping or just out in the world, people are shoving in front. It's all about me. Get out of my way. It's incredible how this is taking over our world on some level.
Yeah, well, every generation is a me generation in one way or another. But I agree, some of them are so, they're almost like narcissistic generations, you know. There's me, and then there's me.
Yeah.
And it can get really, really extreme. And of course, we've experienced rampant consumerism and people living beyond their means because they want everything, and they're buying all this stuff on credit. Then we have a sort of a crash in the economy, and people are left high and dry because they're overextended on credit. They can't survive. They're having all kinds of crisis. It's almost like this me wants to live on the edge.
Yeah.
Me wants more. Me
will sacrifice anything.
Yeah. And even common sense and things like that. And so then eventually it takes some disaster to wake up and say, I have not been fiscally responsible in the way I've managed finances. Well, in the same way, the crash can happen when your partner leaves you, or something else happens, and now you wake up and you say, I have not been responsible in the management and the maintenance and administration of this relationship, because I was so much about me that I wasn't paying attention to us.
Right.
And I missed it. I missed the opportunity.
Missed
now, unfortunately, people who are out in the extreme narcissistic end of the spectrum, often it doesn't wake them up. In other words, their partner leaves, so they go, fine. And they go find somebody else, and they just start the cycle all over again. And nothing ever changes.
Well, a partner can leave on an emotional level too, you know. I mean, some people stay with a narcissistic individual for life. They just learn to cope, and they find outside activities, outside life. They find someone out there who will pay, sometimes in an affair. They're going to find some way to survive, and that they don't always leave them physically and just take off.
Right.
One of the saddest victims of the narcissistic personality are children, because they can't just leave.
Yeah.
You know, the parents will throw toys at them, they'll throw entertainment at them, they'll throw material things at them, activities, but they themselves, the narcissistic individual, cannot reach out and love the child. I mean, really look at the child,
right.
Listen to the child,
right.
See the child. My God, that's all they really want. They don't want a bigger, whatever, toy or a more exciting event. They want their parents' love.
Right.
And it's amazing how the narcissistic individual cannot even feel that or go there. So, because they're so busy with their own life and their own social events and their own achievements, making more money or being more beautiful or buying more clothes or getting a bigger car or a bigger house or decorating or parties. You know, they are more into that than seeing this child who's withering.
Yeah.
Because it's all about, and then when the child says, you know, Mom or Dad, I'm doing this, I won this soccer game or whatever, all of a sudden it takes them on a tangent about themselves. Oh, when I was a child, I did that too, except mine was much greater than yours. You know, maybe they don't use those words, but pretty much that's what they say to the child. And once again, the child becomes invisible. They shrink away to nothing, and it's very, very pathetic in that situation. If there's two adults, maybe one of the adults will wake up and say, hey, look, you know, I don't want to hear what you just did and how wonderful you are. I'm talking about what I just did, so listen, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, they often breed the same thing in the child, because the child desperately wants the love that brings fulfillment, but they're not getting it. Instead, what they're getting is objects. The parent, you know, buys them all their stuff, their Nintendos and their TVs in their rooms and their car, and you know, all these kinds of things, because they don't really have the time or the ability to really invest love in the child, so they throw things at them. They give them this, they give them that, and so forth. So now the child has been grown up receiving a substitute for love, which is objects. And I feel better when I get a lot of birthday presents. I feel better when I have stuff around me than when I don't get it. Because that's about the best, that's as good as it got, is when I got that stuff. So now as they grow up, it's like I want more stuff, and they start to find different ways. And they may be very, very different from their parents on the outside, but on the inside, it's the same thing. It's an object orientation. It's more things to surround me. So
they're starving.
They're starving inside. But the interesting thing about starvation is it's a motivator. You know, as you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you know, if you're starving, you're not going to be thinking about self-actualization. You're going to go get some food. And so if you've got that sense of hunger down inside, and you think you know what's going to fill it, even though it doesn't fill it. So whether that thing is heroin, or whether that thing is possessions, or whether that thing is just surrounding yourself with people who will wait on you hand and foot and treat you like you're an emperor, whatever that may be, you're going to go out and seek that. You're going to create a life in which you have more of that, building me up. And that's the whole sense of narcissism. Is the narcissistic person sees themselves at the center. They want to create a world in which they are the center of that world, and everything else is sort of meeting their needs, filling their needs, giving them what they're looking for. Now, one of the things that happens, one of the manifestations of narcissism in all its forms in relationships is infidelity.
Yeah.
And the reason that happens is because, as you know, when you first meet somebody and that person doesn't know you very well.
Wonderful.
You're so wonderful. Oh, you're so great. We have wonderful sex. Everything is just wonderful, beautiful. And so when I go home to my wife, she just treats me, you know, like she does. Well, because of the way I treat her all the time and everything, it's taken the spark out of the relationship, to say the least.
Right.
And but then I can go meet somebody in a bar and have a one-night stand with them, and then I can really feel it builds me up again. I got somebody who.
He sounds like he knows what he's talking about.
Well, I can remember certain decades of my life, and you know, you learn lessons the hard way. But those kinds of situations, if unchecked, if the individual doesn't see what they're doing, it can just go into a whole way of life of infidelity. And continue, or you know, let's take a situation where it's not a marriage or a committed relationship, just the flying boy syndrome. Again, as you go back to the 80s and you look at some of the things that happened as we explored codependency, as we explored inner child, as we explored, you know, all these different things, the flying boy syndrome is this thing of this person who can't commit. They're constantly in new relationships, looking for new sexual partners, looking for, you know, whatever they can get out of people on an object level, but commitment, they just avoid commitment at all costs.
Very lonely life.
Right, and they create a lifestyle for themselves. Yeah. You talk about a narcissistic lifestyle, that's a narcissistic lifestyle.
Yes, it is.
But then if that person settles down and commits on the surface, through marriage or something like that, then they end up through infidelity, just sort of creating another version of the same manifestation of narcissism.
Because they can't give love. They cannot realize what they're looking for in every way is real love. They're looking for a real connection. They're looking for somebody. They're looking for a fulfillment. They're looking for well, there is a possibility on the human level to really love, and that's what they're looking for. And they're finding plastic everywhere in these affairs, in these one night stands. It just doesn't last. There's nothing there.